The call came at 6:43 a.m. I was barely awake, fumbling for my phone as its buzzing rattled against the nightstand. The voice on the other end was frantic. Did Emily sell her house? I sat up straight. What? Her house? It's got a sold sign out front. The words jolted me fully awake. That couldn't be right. Emily had inherited that house from our parents just a year ago. She wasn't selling. If anything, she had been talking about finally starting the garden Mom always dreamed of. I grabbed my keys and rushed over. The moment I turned onto her street, I saw it, a bright red and white sign planted in the front yard. Sold. My hands gripped the wheel as I slammed the brakes so hard my tires screeched. My heart was hammering as I jumped out of the car. Emily was already there, standing on the porch in her pajamas, staring at the sign in disbelief. What the hell is this? She whispered. A middle-aged man in a blazer, probably the real estate agent, walked up to us, checking something on his clipboard. You must be the previous owner, he said with a rehearsed smile. I know this must be a bit of a shock, but everything is in order. The new owners will be moving in next week. Emily cut him off. I didn't sell my house. The agent's smile faltered. Excuse me. I stepped forward. You heard her. She never put this house on the market. There has to be some mistake. The agent frowned, flipping through his papers. No mistake here. This was an HOA-initiated sale. The property was deemed abandoned, due to unpaid dues. It went through auction last month. For a moment, the words didn't make sense. Then, rage flooded through me. Unpaid dues. I turned to Emily. Did you? She shook her head violently. No. I've paid every single one of those damn fees. I spun back to the agent. Who authorized this? He sighed, clearly annoyed. That would be your HOA board. You'll need to take it up with them. Emily was already marching to her car. Oh, I planned to. 15 minutes later, we stormed into the HOA office. The place had an air of quiet arrogance, cheap corporate decor, a receptionist who barely looked up, and the faint scent of stale coffee. Emily slammed a stack of papers onto the desk. We need to speak with someone about my house. The receptionist barely glanced at her. Do you have an appointment? Emily's voice turned sharp. I own the house, or at least, I did, until you sold it behind my back. So yeah, I think I have an appointment. That got her attention. A few minutes later, we were ushered into a conference room, where 3 people sat waiting for us. At the head of the table was Gerald Whitman, the HOA president, a man in his mid-50s with a thin mustache and the kind of smug expression that made you want to punch him. Miss Emerson, he said smoothly. I was wondering when you'd come by. Emily folded her arms. Cut the crap. Why is there a sold sign in front of my house? Gerald sighed as if we were children who didn't understand basic rules. Your property was auctioned due to unpaid fees. It's all by HOA. Bylaws. That's bullshit, I snapped. Emily's up to date on her payments. She's never missed one. Gerald leaned back, tapping a folder on the table. According to our records, there was an outstanding balance of $1,200. Emily's face twisted in anger. That's impossible. I paid that last month. Gerald smirked wider. Did you? Because we sent multiple notices regarding the overdue amount. When we received no response, we followed. Standard procedure. I could feel my hands clenching into fists. You never sent any notices. Gerald shrugged. Perhaps they were lost in the mail. Liar. Emily hissed. You did this on purpose, didn't you? You wanted my house gone. The smirk never left his face. We simply enforce the rules. If you have an issue, you're welcome to seek legal counsel. But I should warn you, this sale is final. The new owner has already paid, and the deed has been transferred. Emily looked like she was about to explode. I placed a hand on her arm to steady her. We're not done here. Gerald chuckled. I believe you are. We walked out of that office, shaking with rage. Emily's fists were clenched so tightly that her knuckles were white. They stole my house, she whispered. I took a deep breath. Then we steal it back. Emily sat on her now stolen porch, her hands gripping the arms of the chair so tightly I thought she might snap them off. We need proof, I said. Something that shows they lied. If we can prove you never owed anything, we can fight this. Emily inhaled sharply, shaking herself out of the shock. I have records. Receipts. Every payment I've ever made to them. We rushed inside, tearing through old files, emails, and bank statements. It didn't take long to find it. An email confirmation from 2 months ago proving that she had paid off every single cent they were claiming she owed. Timestamped. Verified. Bulletproof. I held up the printout like it was a winning lottery ticket. They screwed up. Emily's eyes lit up with hope, but then she hesitated. Even if we have this, what can we actually do? They already sold the house. That was the question, wasn't it? Fighting an HOA was like trying to take down a hydra, cut off one head, and another sprouted in its place. But I wasn't the type to back down from a fight. We take this to war. We needed a strategy. Emily sat across from me, tapping her fingers against the kitchen table, eyes burning with a mixture of anger and determination. How do we even fight this? They have the money, the legal power, and the system on their side, she said, frustration seeping into her voice. I smirked. Yeah, but they also made a mistake. They left a paper trail. I flipped the email confirmation between my fingers. This was our golden ticket. We're going to expose them, I continued. Not just to the courts, but to everyone. The media, the homeowners, the state authorities, hell, even the feds if we need to. Emily's eyebrows lifted. The media? You really think they'd care about a house stolen by an HOA? I grinned. They will if we make it big enough. Step 1. Find the cracks. While Emily compiled all her bank records, I reached out to a contact of mine, Caleb Carter, a seasoned investigator and former journalist known for digging up dirt on corrupt organizations. An HOA scandal? Caleb snorted over the phone. Man, those guys are cockroaches. Every time I've gone after one, I've found layers of fraud. You sure this is just about a house? Not anymore, I replied. This isn't just about Emily's house. It's about every homeowner they've screwed over. Caleb chuckled. I like your style. Give me 48 hours. I'll see what I can find. Meanwhile, Emily and I started talking to the neighbors quietly, discreetly. The stories we uncovered made my blood boil. A single mother forced to pay thousands in violations just to keep her home. An elderly veteran was evicted over a fence height dispute. A disabled woman was fined repeatedly for an unauthorized wheelchair ramp. Each story painted the same picture. Gerald Whitman and his HOA board weren't just enforcing rules. They were running a full-blown racket. 2 days later, Caleb called back. You're not gonna believe this, he said, voice laced with excitement. Gerald Whitman's been laundering money through the HOA for years. Thousands of dollars in fines funneled into shell companies. And guess what? I traced one of them back to a real estate development firm. Emily's eyes widened. They're forcing people out on purpose. Caleb sighed. Bingo. The HOA is clearing out homeowners to sell properties to developers for profit. It's not about maintaining community standards. It's a business. That was it. The final proof we needed. We take this public, I said. We organize a neighborhood meeting, show them the evidence, and turn the whole damn community against the HOA. The HOA usually held meetings in a tiny conference room, just big enough to fit a couple dozen residents. So we rented out the community center. We put up flyers. We made phone calls. We sent emails. And when the night of the meeting came, the room was packed homeowners, reporters, and even a few city officials. Gerald and his board members walked in looking confident. By the time they left, they were sweating. I stepped up to the front. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about what's really been happening in this neighborhood. With a click, the projector lit up. Emails, bank transactions, testimonies from residents. The HOA board shifted uneasily as we laid out the evidence piece by piece. This isn't about community standards, I said, letting the final image, a transfer of HOA funds to Gerald's personal bank account, linger on the screen. This is about fraud, theft, corruption. Gasps echoed across the room. People stood up, shouting, You stole from us. Where's my money, Gerald? Gerald stood up fast, his face red. This is a blatant attack. A smear campaign. This so-called evidence is taken out of context. Emily, who had been quiet until now, rose from her chair. She lifted her HOA violation notice, the same one they used to steal her home. Is this taken out of context, Gerald? She said, her voice booming. Silence. For the first time, he had nothing to say. The morning after the town hall, the fallout began. Gerald resigned within 24 hours. The HOA board collapsed. A state investigation was launched. And Emily? She got her house back. It took lawyers, paperwork, and a massive fight, but in the end, the court voided the fraudulent sale. As she stepped onto her porch for the first time in weeks, she turned to me and smiled. We won. I exhaled, watching as neighbors celebrated around us. Yeah, we did. Months later, the HOA was officially dissolved. Gerald? He was charged with fraud and embezzlement. Emily planted that garden Mom had always wanted. And me? I sat back with a cold beer, watching the sunset over a free neighborhood. The war was over. And this time, we won.